I was the actor in the Power Rangers show, but most people don't know the disturbing acts I committed on two innocent people. What I did will shock you. My name is Skylar DeLeon, and this is my story. I was the Red Ranger in the show Power Rangers. On the outside, I seemed like a great human, but on the inside, there was a deep, disturbing side of me. One day I saw a listing for a boat that was for sale. I contacted the owners named Thomas and Jackie, and I expressed my interest in purchasing but asked Fee I could take a ride on the boat to see Fee I liked it. They seemed like great people and happily agreed, so I met up with them and brought some of my friends. I pretended like my friends were people who would help me run the boat, but little did Thomas and Jackie know that they were all former convicts. The boat ride started off great. Thomas and Jackie couldn't have been nicer, and they gave me a ton of boating tips. Once we were pretty far out on the ocean, me and my friends ganged up on them and forced them to sign the boat over to me or we would kill them. They reluctantly did, and once they did, I tied them to the anchor and threw the anchor in the water. That was the last of Thomas and Jackie. I would have gotten away with the time if my friends didn't snitch, and also Jackie tricked me. When signing over the boat, she purposely spelled her name wrong, and that made the police very suspicious. I have been sentenced to life in prison, and so far while in prison I switched my gender to female. Follow for more stories.
And they were both found dead. She must have been out of her head.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and this week we are diving feet first into disturbing TikTok murders. I'm gonna go ahead and issue it. Trigger warning, this one is dark. Claire Miller ran a TikTok account called Spirits and Such Consulting that had a little over 32,000 followers. On February 22nd, 2021, she had put her 19-year-old disabled sister Helen to bed. Up until that moment, her father noticed that Claire was having severe mood changes to her sister and they were arguing a lot. But on the other hand, what siblings don't argue at times? Needless to say, the mood changes did not raise any suspicion and her parents went to bed that night. At around 12 in the morning, Claire had reported to have been surrounded by, quote, dark thoughts. After pacing her room back and forth, she went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and then went into her sister's room. That is when she began vigorously stabbing her sister in the neck until she knew that Helen was dead. About 45 minutes later, she called police stating, quote, I killed my sister. When police arrived, they saw Claire standing outside in the front yard covered in blood, and when they entered into the home, they actually woke up Claire's parents as they had no idea what was going on. She is currently facing anywhere from 12 to 40 years in prison.
Now this one is crazy. A man and his son picked up a hitchhiker not knowing that he had just killed someone and had their head in his backpack.
He just stuck his hand out, very quickly. And I told my son, let's get him. I help everybody. He had been up all night walking from Rayburn County.
He says he noticed the guy had a backpack and he reeked of an undescribable smell, which, after dropping him off here along Gillsville Highway, Jimerson says he learned who was in his truck, Keegan Phillips, and what he'd allegedly done, an unforgettable phone call.
You won't believe what happened. A guy in Rayburn County murdered someone last night and has their head. And I said, man, you won't believe what I'm fixing to tell you. There's a smell in this car.
Two people who are now behind bars under arrest in connection with this particular case. So that murder suspect plus another man they say is charged with concealing a death and unlawful disposal of a body.
We just learned that all of this started on Sunday when Rayburn County officials called in the GBI for help with a murder investigation. A day later, authorities found the victim's body in the Chattahoochee-Oconee National Forest, far from Rayburn County.
And that
8-year-old Thomas Casal was just looking up at the stars with his mom when the most despicable and unthinkable thing happened. On the evening of September 10, 2013, it was a rather warm night in Rockford, Illinois. 8-year-old Thomas had trouble going to sleep. He was tossing and turning. Then he thought to himself that he should just go to his mom. He knew that she would be the person to help him and comfort him. So he walks over to his mom's bedroom, taps her on the shoulder, and whispers into her ear, "Mommy, I can't sleep." So she sits up and she looks at him and says, "Okay, what do you want to do?" He asked, "Can you look at the stars with me, Mom? That would help me. So she says, all right. So they walk out of the bedroom that she shared with her husband, Thomas's father, who was still sleeping, by the way. And they walk past the room that his sister was sleeping in. They make their way to the front door and out of the house. Then they both took a seat on the concrete of the porch and began to gaze up at the sky together. Thomas began to feel more at ease now that his mom was with him, and he knew that she would fix everything. A few moments passed, however, when Thomas's mom, Jody, told him that she had to go back inside the house to grab something. Thomas said, okay, Mom, I'll be right here. Then she walks back into the house, and about a minute later, she sits back down right next to Thomas. Then, out of nowhere, she stands up. She looks down at Thomas, then begins to pull him by his shirt and begins to drag him towards the driveway of their home. Scared and confused and also in pain, Thomas just cries out, Mom, please stop. Finally, Jody lets go of Thomas's shirt. Thomas is now on the ground, looking up at his mom with a shocked look on his face. Then she got on top of him, held him down while she took a paring knife out from her pocket and began to slice and stab her 8-year-old son. Thomas cried and screamed. He tried to block the knife several times with his hands and arms while he begged his mom to stop, but she would not. After a couple of minutes of struggle, Thomas went limp. Jody then got up off of her son and walked back into the house, where she called the police. When the operator picked up, she told them that she just ended the life of her 8-year-old son because Satan was after her. Police arrived at their home right away. When they drove up to the house, they got out of their cars, drew their weapons, and walked towards Jody, who was standing over her son's body. As soon as they got close, they cuffed her, but not before she let out a loud scream, and at one point repeatedly banged her forehead on the pavement. Police had to actually wake Thomas's father to tell him what had happened to his son. A couple of neighbors witnessed Jody's arrest. However, it wouldn't be until the next day when they found out the full story of what transpired that night. Everybody was in tears. A lady in particular who lived next door, known as the neighborhood granny, spoke with the media and delivered a tearful memory of Thomas. She said that he was the sweetest boy that she had met. He always helped her bring out the trash. He would always bring in the mail for her, and he was always smiling. In fact, the rest of the neighborhood said very similar things, that he was very helpful and he always had a smile on his face. He also loved his family very much and never questioned them. He was just the sweetest boy. Jody was then put to trial. She pled not guilty. The defense weighed that she was mentally ill, while prosecutors pushed the fact that she was a Wiccan and acted on her belief that her son was conceived under a spell and was evil, so she ended his life in order to protect the rest of her family. In 2017, Jody Lynn Casal was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She had been ordered to be confined to the Illinois Department of Human Services for 100 years, meaning she would be in an inpatient program under psychiatric care. And in a couple of years, she'll then be reevaluated to see if she's fit to be out there in the real world, where she'll be in the outpatient program, meaning she could possibly be free. The family had mixed feelings. However, the family's focus was now on healing and keeping Thomas's memory alive, saying there will never be closure. The people that knew Thomas were disappointed of the verdict. However, they want to keep Thomas's memory alive. So I think that it would be great if we contributed to that. Let's all remember Thomas as that smiley little boy who came to his neighbor's aid, who also was obsessed with the Fast and the Furious movies and also collected Hot Wheel cars. Let's keep that memory of Thomas alive. Rest in peace, Thomas. Fly high, Angel. This was a tough story. I mean, they're all really sad. I just couldn't wrap my head around what happened. So what I have to say is that if you notice anything different about a family member, someone close to you, please do not hesitate to tell somebody or confront that person. It's tough because you never know. It's like, what do you do? But it doesn't hurt to try.
19-year-old Mackenzie Shrillo was convicted of multiple counts of murder for crashing into a building while going 100 miles per hour, killing her boyfriend Dominic Russo, 20, and their friend Davian Flanagan, 19. She aimed to end her relationship with Russo, leading to the fatal crash. This was not reckless driving. This was murder, the judge said before announcing the conviction. In total, Shrillo was found guilty on 12 charges, including 4 counts of felonious assault, 4 counts of murder, and 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide. She was also found guilty of marijuana possession. There is no doubt that this happened because of the relationship with Dominic, and the defendant's intent was clearly to end that. And she took everybody that was in the car with her, said attorney Tim Troop. Sherilla faces life imprisonment and must serve 15 years before parole eligibility.
Well, I came back from a lunch break. I went behind the counter to go pick up my trusty iPad I use for surveying. And I was talking to a coworker and I heard pop, 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 like 5 or 6 rounds go off.
Around 1:30 p.m. on August 11th, 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims was working her shift at Home Depot in Escambia County, Florida. So Brooklyn had been contracted out to work at this Home Depot. She was a mother of a toddler and she was very excited about this job. Now on her shift Friday, it would have been like any other shift and she was getting ready to get off. But what Brooklyn didn't know was, right before she was getting off, her ex Keith Agee was on his way up there. So 20-year-old Keith and 18-year-old Brooklyn, they share a toddler together. Now, although they dated for a little while, it's being said that Brooklyn was trying to get out of this situation, and as of right now, they was just co-parenting. So Brooklyn's family is saying that she also took Keith to court, so they knew that she was getting over the situation and she was moving on. Not only that, like I said, you guys, she was very happy about this job. Brooklyn was getting her life together for her daughter. Now, around 1:30 p.m., Keith comes to this Home Depot where Brooklyn works. Now, he comes in, he finds the aisle that Brooklyn is working on, and he opens fire. Keith ends up shooting and killing the mother of his child, Brooklyn, and he ends up injuring other people. Now, y'all, after that, Keith then fled the store.
Employee with Home Depot, and the alleged shooter, who is now being identified as Keith Agee from Alabama, is in custody. Investigators tell us the suspect ran from the store as officers and deputies tried to find him around 1:30 this afternoon at the home improvement store on Davis Highway in Pensacola. They believe he ran out of options, so he called to turn himself in near the Mellow Mushroom on Bayou Boulevard.
So not long after the shooting took place, Keith got scared and he turned himself in. Now, as police start to investigate this, they then uncover some text messages that lead them to believe that Keith did not act alone. Now, moments before the shooting took place, police recovered text messages from Sheila Agee, which is Keith's mother. Now, y'all, in these text messages, Sheila basically pushed her son up to kill his baby mama. She continuously told him to come up here, I'll give you the address, you need to kill her. And from those text messages, it really seems like she pushed her son up to do it.
Brooklyn Sims was killed right here at this Home Depot Friday afternoon. We're leaving out the expletives here, but some of the texts investigators say Sheila Agee sent read, quote, I'll tell you when we get close, but if you don't come kill her, you, and quote, I'll give you the address here and you can ride over here and do it so you don't have to do it in front of your daughter. CSA Purnell says she was next to Sims when she was shot, a bullet even grazing her. She says they were about to leave when the shooting happened.
We was almost done, probably another 2 minutes, and we would have been leaving. It's a scene that you think you would never be a part of, because, I mean, I've seen it on TV.
So, y'all, these text messages between Sheila and her son, Keith Agee, are absolutely crazy. In one of the messages, Sheila said, as long as you don't shoot me. In these messages, you can clearly see Sheila is saying, I want you to kill her, but I don't want you to hurt me in the process. It's like she only cared about herself, and she was assisting her son in finding out where Brooklyn worked at and the address. So Sheila was arrested and she was charged with helping her son commit this murder. And now Brooklyn's family is trying to deal with everything that's going on. On top of that, deal with the pressure of letting her daughter know what happened to her mother. This little girl loved her mother and Brooklyn loved her. The family is saying that even though this baby is still young, they feel like she can feel that her mother is not here.
Ended her life while she was working Friday. He's now focused on the 2-year-old daughter his sister leaves behind, little Casey.
Look, Casey, look!
Took the chance away from my niece to know her mother and know how amazing of a person she was.
We're told it was the toddler's father, Keith Agee, who shot and killed her young mother. A friend and co-worker who was grazed by a bullet during the shooting says there were undertones of domestic violence between the couple.
The first time he did it, it was never okay. So, I mean, I wish things would have went differently. I wish maybe he could have got some type of help and things wouldn't have went this far. I wish he just could have not went this far, because now it's just senseless.
Family members also knew of the pair's troubles.
When it first occurred, I was aware, and then there was a hiatus, so to speak, because, you know, she took him to court, did the steps she had to take to make sure he was out of her way. And somehow or another, this ended up being the result.
Now, there is a history of domestic violence when it comes to Keith, and 2 other women had orders of protection against him before. The most recent incident with Keith and another woman happened in 2023. Now, this woman did get an order of protection against Keith, but then she went to court and said she wanted to drop everything. Now, Keith's mother should absolutely be charged. This woman literally sat there and kept egging her son on to kill her own granddaughter's mother. And another thing that makes me sick about this entire situation, Sheila would post pictures of Brooklyn with her daughter as if she really cared about Brooklyn. But when it came down to it, you helped your son kill this innocent woman. Now, you guys, comment below and let me know your thoughts on this case. My heart absolutely goes out to Brooklyn, her family, and especially her daughter. Because not only does this little girl have to grow up without her mother, one day she will learn that her father is the one who took her mother away. Justice for Brooklyn. What's up, everybody? All right, you guys, so if you're not already following me, make sure you hit that follow button and let's get into this tragic story. So, Cory Shaver was a mother that resided in Tulsa, Oklahoma. On her Instagram page, Braids by Coco, she showcased her braiding skills, and people describe her as a person that was just full of love. Cory also had a lot of friends, y'all, and she loved to have a good time. She was very loved among her friend circle and by her family. On August 7th, around 5:30 p.m., police in Tulsa, Oklahoma received a 911 call about a possible shooting. After arriving to the scene, they found Cory Shaver suffering from a gunshot wound, and she was sitting in the backseat of a car that was still running. Paramedics rushed his mother to the hospital where they tried to save her life. Now, while Cory is being rushed to the hospital, they talked to the 911 caller, who was Courtney Smith. Now, Courtney Smith told police that he doesn't know what really happened, but he believed that somebody just came along and shot Cory. He also told police that him and Cory pulled up to this house. He went inside to use the bathroom, and when he came out, that's when he found her shot. Later on, at the hospital, Cory sadly succumbed to her injuries, making this now a murder investigation. Police did find a weapon on the scene, which they identified as the murder weapon, and now they were trying to put the pieces together to understand who could have done this to this mother.
Found her in the car when they arrived to the scene and say they believe that is where she was shot. Officers say the woman later died at the hospital. Police say both the victim and the suspect were in their mid-20s. They say a man was taken in for questioning in connection to the shooting, but no names or additional information have been released.
Although Courtney Smith said that he did not know who shot Cory, police did not believe his story. So they started digging deeper into Cory and Courtney. Now, they were able to find a surveillance that showed that there were 3 people riding in that car earlier that day. So that goes against what Courtney said when he said that it was just him and Cory. They stopped at his house and he went in to use the bathroom. So obviously there was somebody else in his car. Police then got information that not only was Courtney and Cory in the car that day, but it was also a man by the name of Julian Smith, who was actually the brother of Courtney Smith. On August 10th, which would have been 3 days after the murder, police then announced that they believe that Julian Smith and Courtney Smith are persons of interest in this murder. Police have reason to believe that one of the brothers are responsible for killing Cory. They then issue out warrants for Courtney Smith and for Julian Smith. Now, the warrant for Courtney Smith was for accessory after the fact because police actually believe that Julian is the one that pulled the trigger. Courtney ends up turning himself in, but his lawyer is saying that she does not believe that Courtney is guilty.
After turning himself in, hours after the arrest warrants were issued for him and his brother Julian. Courtney Smith is charged with accessory to murder, but his attorney says he had nothing to do with his friend's death.
You have an exact situation right now where you have someone who stayed on the scene, who called the cops, who cooperated, and yet he's still sitting in David Elmas.
She's frustrated because she says police knew where Courtney was, yet they made a post on Facebook saying they were looking for him. She says that's painted Courtney in a bad light and it's unfair.
It makes it appear that, one, he was uncooperative, that he was hiding from police, and he wasn't providing any information, and that's not the truth. He was cooperative. They knew where he was.
So what police believe happened was Cory Shaver, Julian Smith, and Courtney Smith, which are the brothers, all of them were in the car. Now, they do believe that Courtney got out the car and went inside the home, but when he did that, Julian Smith turned around and shot Cory in the head. Police believe that Julian then got a ride away from the scene while Courtney moved the car that Corey was in so he could protect his brother Julian. Then Courtney would move that car back to the crime scene, call police, and then pretend like he doesn't know what happened. That's why his lawyer is trying to say that, oh, he stayed on the crime scene, he didn't leave. But in reality, police believe that he moved that car and then came back. Now, as of right now, we don't have a motive. A lot of news sources are saying that these three were friends. In the community where she's from, everybody there is torn apart. Everybody loved Corey.
Julian Smith is charged with first-degree murder, and Courtney Smith is charged with accessory to murder. Courtney is in jail on $2 million bond. If you know where Julian is, you're asked to call police.
Now, after doing a little digging, I was able to find some information on Julian Smith, which is the person charged with first-degree murder. It turns out, y'all, in 2019, this guy was a star basketball player in Oklahoma. Julian is on the run for this murder, and the media is only releasing that one picture of him, but this is a better close-up of kind of what he looks like. I also found a video of Julian talking.
When I was young, I played football. I played quarterback and running back. I was going to keep playing, but I had messed up my knee, ligaments torn, so I went to I was playing basketball at the same time.
Now, at this time, Julian Smith is still on the run, so if you have any information on the whereabouts of Julian, please contact Tulsa Police. Corey was a beautiful spirit, a beautiful soul, and now her kids have to grow up without her. I'm praying for her friends, her family, and justice for Corey.
Have you heard anything at all from her, Karen?
Nothing at all. I just want her home, where she belongs, with the family. If anybody's got Shannon, please return her home safe. I'm begging you, baby, come home.
Thank you very much indeed, Karen. Very, very difficult time for Shannon's mother here.
I remember one instance where there was a bulletin on the news and they'd got the net curtains up and she's moving the net curtain for the cameras outside to be able to watch the net curtain moving on the television. And it was all just a big game. There were a lot of enjoyment about the attention that they were getting. No doubt about that.
She didn't think about Shannon being dead. And that's what got me. She never thought of Shannon being harmed or being dead. And she'd never entertained the fact of it. Whenever you'd say that to her, you do realise you might have to face the fact she might come back, something might have happened to her. And she'd say, no, it ain't. But...
One of the first priorities for the investigation was to build a picture of Shannon's family tree. It soon became clear that would take some time.
What we quickly realised was that, yes, Karen had 7 children to 5 different fathers, but as we did further inquiries into the extended families, and that includes the extended families of these partners that she's had, and also the partners that she's had where she's had no children to them, you can certainly get a clear understanding as to how many hundreds of people we were actually dealing with just in the extended family. And in a normal inquiry, I would probably use one slice of A4 paper would achieve what we want to do in relation to the immediate family and friends. However, with this particular family, and some might perceive it as being a dysfunctional family, where Karen has had 7 children to 5 different partners, she's had other partners besides that she's not had children to. It blew out of all proportion, really. It's quite unlike anything I've ever been involved in. This isn't the completed piece. There's over 300 members of family, extended family, friends, just had to be interviewed alone.
Karen is one of 7 children of parents June and Gordon. No schoolgirl mum, she has her first child with John Breton when she's 20. She has 2 more live-in partners, then has a son with a 4th, Leon Rose. They separate, but not before Karen becomes pregnant with Shannon. After other boyfriends, Karen meets a Paul hooker, and 2 years later she has her 4th child. Karen and Paul split up, and the following year she has a daughter with an ex-boyfriend, William Marshall. Then comes Phil Newsom. They have a son, but separate before he's born. She was already pregnant with her 7th child when she met Craig Meehan.
you.